If you're anything like me, chances are you've spent at least a few minutes, maybe even hours, in the last 10 days watching the coverage of the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. We're no closer to knowing what really happened to the Boeing 777. All we do know for certain is that it left Kuala Lumpur and it never made it to Beijing. Did it crash? Was it hijacked? Did it land safely somewhere outside of the sight of radar? Or is it like the TV show Lost, where everyone on board is living out life on a tropical island? Your guess is as good as mine, it's as good as Mike's or as Ernest's or anyone's, really. But that's not stopping CNN from going wall to wall with coverage. MSNBC and Fox News are on the story too, and the networks are still leading their nightly broadcasts with it. But there's nothing really new to report. Here's how Rush Limbaugh characterized the whole situation.
It's getting absurd now, is the point. All the conspiracy that thing has been hijacked. You take the seats out of that thing and you can turn it into a giant nuclear bomb. Has just created this primordial soup atmosphere for conspiracy theories to just go through the roof. And it's now so far gone that the simple explanation is what's going to end up being the truth here. But nobody's going to accept it because they're so far gone now with potential theories that it's going to be difficult for people. People aren't going to believe the truth once it's known.
Primordial soup, Mike.
Well, I mean, there's lots of things I want to say about this, but first of all, Rush Limbaugh doesn't have any problem, and nor do any other talk show hosts traffic in conspiracy theories when it's about Obamacare or something else that's on their agenda. And I don't have a problem with CNN or the broadcast networks or anybody covering this story in depth. We care about it. Is there anything new going on? Well, I'd say maybe there are new developments. It's incremental. It's fascinating to watch, but it's like a detective story. And this is like the ultimate sort of human interest story. Why would we not want to tell it? And if you're in television news, the cable news channels, when you're trying to keep an audience with all the fragmentation that's going on out there, and you can see from the numbers coming in every hour that it's working, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, I think people are really interested in this because of I think the mystery of it. Where did this plane go? I mean, first they were saying, well, it's in this area. And then I was saying, well, wait a minute, it was lost on radar when it turned. Well, wait a minute. When did it turn and which way did it turn? So it's almost like you're getting bits and pieces of it. It's almost you're talking about Lost.
Yeah.
Well, could be a real life.
And it took,
Lost
6 years to figure out what really happened with Lost.
And who knows? I mean, one of the things that I found fascinating was that when they bring the experts in, which CNN has done a pretty good job of doing, they actually talk about once the coverage is over, they still don't know what happens in a lot of these accidents until 2 or 3 years later. And then you get a 30-minute or a minute report. Well, remember this accident that happened here? Well, now the NTSB has come out with its final report and it says this, which in a lot of cases is totally different from what you were getting initially.
It is fair to say that what CNN and a lot of other folks are doing, not just CNN, is just speculation. I mean, that's all we can do. They are bringing on a lot of experts to speculate with a lot of different points of view. And they're having the same kind of conversations that we're having with each other about what's going on, except they're a little better informed. And so I actually enjoy being involved in some of that speculation. On the other hand, it's fair to say they're kind of sucking the oxygen out of the room, so they're not, CNN especially, on the air is not doing much with what's going on in Ukraine.
Yeah,
they're not doing much with a lot of other big stories.
I mean, Syria, what's happening in Syria right now has really turned into what some people are saying it could be genocide. And that story is the third or fourth, in some cases fifth story that you see in the block. And that's where I have a problem.
But even with that, I mean, if you're the news organization, think about how people are consuming your content and even coming to it in the first place. I'm a big fan of cable television news, but do I watch it continuously? No. If I get an alert on my cell phone or my tablet that there's breaking news, then I might switch over and watch it live. If I want to find out what's going on in Ukraine or Syria or whatever, I can go to any number of news sites, including CNN's site, and there's plenty of coverage of that, just not on the air on the 24-hour cable channel.
I mean, I think what's happening is that this story, because of the mystery involved, is what's keeping it going. Whereas in the other stories, I mean, you're getting your typical news. Here's what Russia, here's what Putin did today. Here was the reaction by the West in the United States. Here's what some of the people on the ground are saying, and then you move on to the next story. With this one, it's just a little incremental that keeps people coming in.
So we're almost 2 weeks into this. I mean, Friday, it will be 2 weeks since this plane took off. There are some who are beginning to say, and people have been critical of CNN's decision to go wall to wall with this, but there's some that are saying, okay, go wall to wall with it. We understand it's working for the ratings. That's what we're even saying here. But what about continuing to characterize this as breaking news and having that title on there?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's fair to say that we use that term very loosely in television news as it is. On the other hand, I mean, as long as there are new developments, I think it's fair to talk about them. And let's just face it. I mean, we've been 2 weeks into this story. Amelia Earhart disappeared how many decades ago? And we still talk about it. We still do documentaries about it. This is 200 and some people. And if that plane is never found with all of the technology we have today, that's really interesting.